sort of stood up and I don't really remember so much of this, but I was told that I sort of took a step backwards, and that triggered off the improvised explosive device. I believe it was a pressure plate from the things I've been told, but it could have been a remote detonated one or anything. We don't know for sure. Either way, it went off. Thankfully, the guy behind me was thrown a bit and got a little bit of a neck injury, but nothing serious. And everybody else was completely unarmed. I took the brunt of it thanks to the spacing and the good drills that we'd used. Fully conscious, believe it or not. I don't know to this day how even initially, I didn't feel any pain or anything. I didn't really know what had happened. Like, I was so disorientated that obviously there'd been a big explosion, a lot of dust thrown up in the air. I couldn't see anything. And it wasn't until the lads started coming towards me to treat me and stuff that I really understood what had happened. It was chaotic. Once my brain understood, that's when the pain kicked in, weirdly. And then a nice little funny story. The guy who went to put morphine in me had it upside down and put it into his own hand, into his thumb. Thankfully we carry spares, and I did get mine pretty quickly after it. But it's interesting, there's a new film called Warfare, and there's an IED in that, and the guy does exactly the same thing with the morphine on that, and I was like watching it thinking this could actually be us. But yeah, the guys came and obviously started treating me medically, as we would always train. Someone steps up into my shoes and someone steps into theirs and so on, and because of the training and the drills that we'd done, it went amazingly, because I wouldn't be here without it. I think there was a helicopter with me in about 9 minutes, which just obviously ended up saving my life. The boys patched me up well, took me on a stretcher, and took me to a nearby place where they called in the helicopter back near the fob, because we weren't too far away from it. And like just massive credit. And when I spoke obviously earlier about how these guys had been banded together from the misfits of companies and stuff. Some of these were reserve soldiers. The first man who came to me was a reserve soldier. What an amazing job they did, which is testament to them as characters, as people, and also to the training that we put in before, the hard work, the hard lines. I don't think people understand how many times you repeat stuff, and at the time you kind of get a bit fed up of doing the same drills over and over, but this is why I wouldn't be here today without it. The helicopter lands, and on the back of that there's doctors, surgeons and paramedics, far more qualified people who then take over. I believe they banged my head a couple of times against a couple of walls and dropped me out of the stretcher and all sorts, because that's the panic that's going on in that sort of scenario. I can't imagine what it must have been like for them to see me as I was, be processing that, dealing with it, and still managed to keep cool enough to do the job and get me onto that helicopter safe and sound. I was still feeling the pain at this point, still fully conscious. I remember there's a lad called Undy, and his distinct voice talking to me. He was kind of reassuring me and chatting away to me. I do remember asking a couple of questions about my legs, so I was obviously aware of them being damaged badly, but definitely not to what extent. It was all madness, I think, from my point of view. I got put on the helicopter, and this is where generally they would knock me out and treat me. As you can imagine, it would be easier to treat somebody who's kind of still and asleep than it would somebody who's still alive and maybe wriggling about and struggling. They put the oxygen mask on me and all that sort of stuff, and I was being a right pain in the bum, ripping it off and refusing. But all I remember thinking was, if I'm awake, I'm all right. You are not putting me to sleep. I'm not having it. And in the end, they had to kind of give up trying to do that. I've since spoken to those medics, one in particular, and it was interesting to have that conversation, that I was a nightmare for her, really. But it's actually what kind of made her remember me so much. And yeah, I just kept fighting. They were obviously pumping blood into me now at this stage, because I would have bled out a lot, and trying to stop the bleeding and do the bits they did. And sort of another sort of 9 or 10 minutes later, we're back at Bastion, where the surgeons were ready to do what they needed to do on me, and they were kind of horrified and annoyed that I was still awake, and very quickly then knocked me out. And that I suppose became a period of ease for me. The next couple of weeks I was stabilised in Bastion, and I came back, flew back to the UK, I think somewhere between 24 and 36 hours later. Apparently I was resuscitated a couple of times on the plane, so that's kind of tiny margins to me not being here or being here.